Hello there, GDT 104 students. By request, a couple people mentioned that they would like to see a tutorial on how to make tints and shades of our personal spot colors. And that turned out it's much easier to do than I thought, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Um, and why would you want to make tints and shades of your personal spot colors? Well, as you remember, spot colors are pre-mixed colors from Pantone that are usually used in conjunction with just black ink or something like that. It's a standalone color. It's not combined with other colors the way cyan, magenta, yellow, and black would be combined in a Pantone process to create a color. Um, but for the purpose of what I'm talking about here, that doesn't really matter. We are simply making a spot color because it's the only way to add white to a color. Um, and as you will remember from our lectures over the last couple days, when you add white to a color, also known as a hue, that is a tint. Adding white equals tint. If you add black to a hue or color, that is called a shade. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and come down here and launch Illustrator. This is going to look slightly different from what we use in class just because it's the latest version, but it's basically the same. And first thing I'm going to do is make a new document. You could also do Command N, new. We'll just take our default letter size. It's fine. Doesn't really matter. And the first thing I would do, just to get in the habit, save as. Let's save this to my desktop. We will call this spot swatch tint shade or some whatever you'll remember. Okay, that's all fine. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my swatches over here because I'm going to base my spot color on one of these swatches. So I'm just going to choose this orange here. And you see now we've got an orange over here, orange fill, black stroke. I'm just going to take that stroke off. We don't need that. And I've got this orange. I'm going to double click to open the color picker. And I'm looking at this. I'm going to make this a little bit different. I want it a little darker for the purpose of this. And that's good. That's all we need to do. Okay. Now, I'm going to open up the swatch panel again. But don't click on any other colors because if you do that, it's going to change what's going on over here. What we want to do, I'm going to pull this down so we can see everything. We are going to choose this little icon down here, new swatch. And this is kind of the universal new symbol in Adobe. If I click down to the layers, you'll see that this symbol also is create new layer. So we're going to go up here to new swatch, and you can see it opens up this new swatch dialog box, and it is this color over here, right here, and it has all of our CMYK values. We could change modes on this if we wanted to other things, but we're going to keep it at CMYK, and I'm going to uncheck add to my library. I don't need to do that right now. What we're going to do, the only thing we're going to change here is we're going to change this from color type, from process color to spot color. Doesn't really look anything changed, right? And then we're going to change the name of this so that we have a custom color with its own name. And I'll just call this Otang. You can call it whatever you want. I don't know why I called it that because it's orange like an orangutan and my last name's Lang. Did that earlier in class, kind of silly. And it is a spot color, CMYK spot color, made from these four colors, but it is a spot color. And then we're going to hit OK. Now watch, once I hit OK, watch over here. Boom. See, right here, we end up with this new little swatch. And like anything in Adobe, if I hover over it, maybe I have to select it. Let's just close this and see what happens. Hover over it. There it is. Olang Otang is the name of this swatch. And just like this is black, this is CMYK red, this is registration, this is none. There is a name assigned to this. But you'll also notice that there's a different thing here. You've got this little white triangle with a hole in it. And that simply means that this is a spot color. So you know you've done it right. If what you've created does not have this little white triangle, then it's not a spot color. And you got to start over because it's not going to work for what we're doing. Okay? So now we're going to select this. Okay? Proper color right here. And we're going to draw a simple square. So I'm going to select my rectangle tool and I'm going to hold down shift so I can make a perfect square. There we go. So both our tints and our shades are going to be derived from this color. This is the 0 point. Okay. Now I'm going to close our swatches panel and I'm going to open up what I call the Bob Ross panel. It's just a palette color. And I open this up. This shows our current hue, the one we just made, the orangutan, or whatever you've called yours. And it shows it from its starting point all the way to white. Basically, it shows a range of tints. But there's one thing we need to do, because we could go in here and just like pick different colors that we like out of this if we wanted to do it fast. But there's a more precise way. In order to do that, we have to have a slider with numbers on it. And all you have to do is click right here and say show options. There we go. So now we have orangutan T tint. This is called the tint ramp down here. This shows you the tint and it's got 100% starting up here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab our selection tool. I'm going to click over here. It's already selected, and I'm going to hold down option, and then I'm going to click shift drag, and that's going to copy this swatch, and it's also going to keep it in line with the one that I'm copying, and let go. Now notice these are both 100% at this point. All I have to do now with this one, I'm going to do this in increments of 10%, and I'm adding white by reducing this. So I can just drag this down to 90, or I could type it in there, and there you go. We've got 90 right there. Now we're just going to do this all the way down. I'm going to take this one, option, click, shift, drag, and I'm going to enter 80. And so on. I'm just going to speed this up. It's the same process. And just keep going. 50. Now, why would we want to do this? We already know this from class, but on project 1, and probably other projects you do in the future, you're going to work with a limited color palette. Oops, 40, not 0. And you work with a limited color palette because it looks nice. Simple as that. It works out. Right, this is going off the page. That's okay. Fix that later. I'm just going to go down to 20. Anything else, it gets a little light. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom out for a minute. And what I'm going to do is just select all of these, hold down shift, grab this corner, and just bring them up. Okay, so now we have a nice range of tints for our starting color. So tints, adding white, all the way to 20%, which means basically you've added 80% white to your existing tint. Now we're going to make shades. This is where we add black. And we can start from the same starting point as we did with our tints. So I'm going to take this, our 100% orangutan hue, and I'm going to option, click, shift, drag over here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and make another copy for our first shade. Now this is where it changes. because if we're adding black, obviously I am maxed out over here. I can't make this any darker. All I can do is go down. That's adding white. So now what I have to do, I have to switch this back to CMYK from the spot color. That's okay though, it's easy to do. All we have to do is go back to this pull down menu, click, and select CMYK. Now see what we have here? We have percentages of CMYK. Now usually this is going to be at 0. It's almost at 0 in the black, the K equals black, really means key, but it means black. It's barely detectable if I turn it down to 0. But what we're going to do really is we're going to add increments of black, just like we did increments of white to this. We're going to do that with this. So I'm going to we're not going to change anything but the K level. And I'm going to add 10 to that. All right, so you see it's getting darker. Now I'm going to copy this, click, shift, drag, bring this up to 20. Option, click, shift, drag, bring this up to 30. Option, click, shift, drag, bring this up to 40. And so on. Now, to be honest with you, I find the tints work a little bit better than the shades, but that all depends. It's good to have both. But you start to lose, the values start to get so dark up here that there's not that much contrast at that level. But it may work for you. And it also depends on what your starting point is. 70 and 80. We could go all the way up to 90. But obviously, it doesn't matter how much CM and Y we have, just to show how this works. If we drag this K all the way up to 100, you can see we've got black. Okay, so sorry about the ambient noise. I have kids out there. So yeah, that's basically it. That's how you do it. You have your spot color that you have made tints and shades of. Now that you've made this, you go ahead and make sure that we've already saved that. And I'm going to hit save so that you can see what's so you can refer to this anytime. You don't want to do all this work and then not have this. So there it is. And we're good. So, all right. Thank you for watching this tutorial. And send me an email if you have any questions. But this should help you out. Make sure to try this on your robots because it's important that it'll add a lot of nuance, contrast, and just give you a better product. All right. Have a good weekend.